Hi, and welcome to the Women on the Wall radio show. We are excited to be here at our studios in Arlington, Texas. And thank you, Josh, our producer. And this show is being sponsored by the Can I See campaign. You know, we had a conference where we put together 2 days of videos and audios. It's a DVD set. And our partners over at Volt Media understand that this information must get out and must get out across this country. So the box set that they were selling, it was $299. They have reduced the price to $99 so that folks can buy that DVD set, use it to show these talks by Jane Robbins, Dr. Peg Luxick, at their local meetings, at their grassroots organizations. But more importantly, we're calling on people to call their favorite candidate and say, you know, we are not going to donate any more money to you. We're going to donate this DVD set to your campaign so that you can get up to speed on the federal takeover of our education system. And once we know that you're up to speed, then we'll begin donating to your campaign. So I think that's a pretty good deal.
Absolutely.
That's right. So go online to canic.org and you can order your DVD set today. And I'm so excited. Normally, my co-host Rebecca Forrest, the beautiful Rebecca Forrest, comes up from Austin, but she is not able to be here today. So I have a handsome young man all the way here from London.
Yep.
Luca Bocci.
Yeah, that's it.
And Luca and I have been on tour across Alabama. You were speaking in Florida.
I was in Florida before, yeah, so it's been an interesting week.
That's right, that's right. And on the line, we also have Roy Wright, who is the founder of Truth in Texas Textbooks, and we are excited to have Roy on the line. How are you doing, Roy?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me, and hope you're enjoying your stay here in the United States. Look, I just came from 2 weeks in Europe, so we obviously crossed paths somewhere along the way, but thanks for helping out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, spatial relationship, people coming, people going. And yeah, it's time. It's great to be here. It's lovely. Yeah, I got to meet an amazing number of people, amazing number of patriots there, willing to do everything to stop this takeover on public education, and actually it's been inspirational, not just for the people in the audience, but also for me as well.
That's great.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for having me, Alice.
Well, thank you. You know, we've got a lot going on. It seems like we always have a lot going on, a lot of major issues to cover. And right now in Texas, there is the battle against APUSH. APUSH stands for Advanced Placement U.S. History. And just a little history behind APUSH. They have just come out with a new framework and exam. And for parents out there who may or may not know, the AP curriculum and classes is all owned by the College Board. They own the copyright to that curriculum and that exam. So your local school district, when they offer an AP class, what they have to do is submit to the College Board a syllabus for approval to use that class for college credits. And so now the president of the College Board just happens to be the mastermind behind the Common Core, David Coleman. And when this new framework was put forward, it is clearly an anti-American framework. The themes are anti-American. They've taken our history, our great leaders, out of the framework. They've taken Martin Luther King out. It's quite amazing. It's a revisionist history. And Luca, you said yesterday we were talking about it, and you said this is nothing new. This type of education reform is what you saw in Italy, isn't that correct?
Yeah, we've seen it everywhere. The plan is always the same. So it's kind of like they're going with the same script pretty much in every country. We've seen this kind of revisionist history going along 30 years ago. And it's been not just Italy, it's been France, it's been Spain, Germany, England. So you go there and they always have the same excuse. They always say that history is too so mnemonic, you have to learn a lot of dates, it's not exactly, so it's too cumbersome, it's too difficult for children, and so they need to be more focused. And in theory, it could be okay. But then when you go there and look for the details, actually what they do is take out all the good parts about the history of your country. So you focus a lot on what actually went wrong. But you forget what was in. In Italy, we had exactly the same. They had a lot of things about the occupation of Libya and Ethiopia and fascism and stuff. So all the bad stuff was there. And it was in very great detail. But when they had to talk about how the country came together, how so many patriots gave their lives for the dream of a unified country, well, that was forgotten. And it's just like nationalism wasn't exactly in fashion. And fast forward 30 years, nobody in Italy knows the history of their country. The new generations, if you go there and you ask the name of one patriot that actually gave his life for our country, they don't know him. Because they were never taught in school to actually appreciate why the country came together. Germany is the same thing. They always talk about Nazism and the bad stuff. They didn't talk about the 1848 revolution that they did, and it was really a popular movement, and it was inspired by ideals of freedom. So they take out the good stuff, and that's why. But it's just part of the plan. Because if you want to create a unified Europe, you have to remove the nationalist part. It's backfiring right now, by the way. And most countries are going back. So.
It's interesting. Sometimes it takes just being in the right place at the right time. And I'm going to give a little breaking history, breaking news, because, when you hear the College Board representatives testifying in front of the State Board of Education, they always make it sound really good. Debbie Pennington with the College Board always sounds really good. We're for America. She says, I'm for I really appreciate these people with these criticisms, and it'll make us better, and we're definitely going to cover our founding fathers. But it just so happens that she was in the restroom yesterday at the SBOE meeting, and you never know who's going to be in the restroom, in the stall, listening when you're talking. And she was actually telling someone, the goal is to create global citizens.
Surprise.
She said that yesterday in the bathroom. So just so people know, what they say sometimes in a testimony at a hearing is not actually what they mean. Well,
let's not say that they're lying. Just let's say that they're offering us a nicer version of actually what they want to do. Well, they do the same thing they've been doing to the U.S. history curriculum. They're taking out the good stuff. In this case, they're taking out the bad stuff. So it's nothing serious, right?
Well, and she is the one that during her testimony, to her credit, spoke some truth. She said one of her favorite mentors on history and developing this new APUSH framework said, we need to remember that this is not just a history of old white guys. There were other people there, and their voice should be heard.
Yeah. But yeah, it's true. Actually, it is true. Yeah. Across the whole of U.S. history, you had a lot of people that didn't really like America, and they were doing everything they can to destroy America. Should we hear their viewpoint as well? So we should always give space to the enemies of America? I don't know. It's just an opinion.
Yeah. And everybody's... Actually, we're fighting for America's freedom, where we are free to have an opinion. Because, Luca, in Italy, is it different? In Europe, people are, it's not that your opinion's shut down, but
Well, it is.
it is.
It is. Yeah, you know, because they always come and they have an excuse. They are really good at finding very good excuses to just take away your freedom. They just go there and they say, no, we cannot allow these people to speak. They are too damaging because they are too inflammatory, so we should stop them. And they pass a law. In Europe, it's called the hate speech law. So if you say anything controversial about certain subjects, they can come and arrest you. So after a while, it just trickles down, down, and up. At a certain point, you are really afraid to say what's on your mind because you can be arrested. And it's not just, conspiracy theory and stuff. It's real. You have had professors, you have had journalists, you have had people that are in jail for what they think. I don't think it's not coming here because it's the same part of the same global agenda. They're going there and they want to silence the opposition. It will be here. It's just that in America it's more difficult. So that's why America in this case is behind Europe. Because in Europe it was easy. Once you control the government, you control everything. In America, thank God, you have a federalist system. So you have to go state by state by state by state. It's more complicated, but they're getting here.
Well, and it's interesting when you look at people who are pushing this is not a Republican versus Democrat issue.
It never is.
When you have Bill Bennett, who is paid to get conservatives on board with Common Core, that's a scary thing because you don't. People lose their principles and their values.
It's in the scripture. The love of money is the root of all evil. So
Right.
you have to go there. But even there, I can say this here because I'm in America. If I'm in Europe and quote scripture, people look at me and say, "Oh, there must be something wrong with you." Maybe we should call the guys in the white suit. They will put you a nice straight jacket and bring you to the hospital. Because no, you cannot say these things because you risk offending someone else. You risk offending atheists and Muslims and so on. So you will get there. But this is the point. It's just the fact that most people do not get it. And they just think that it's all, oh yeah, the left is good, the right is bad, the right is bad. It's not that.
Right.
They always have people there because it's a structure. It's just a political calculation and it's a financial calculation. There are people who are going to make a lot of money through this, and money has no color, has no political affiliation. If it's more convenient to get people in the Democratic Party to go there, they will use them. If it's more convenient to have people from the Republican Party, they will do that. It's not a problem. It's just a problem of getting there, getting the result, and having the profits. There is nothing bad in having profits,
Right.
but this is the point. If you do that from a monopolistic point of view, by taking away all the opposition and imposing something that is bad for the children,
Right.
well, we have questions on that, obviously.
Well, and it's interesting. I want to give a little, let people know what's going on right now. Yesterday, there was a amendment that was passed across the board that says that the Texas standards, our Texas TEKS, have to be taught in Texas schools, no matter whether it's an AP class or an IB class. That sounds good.
In theory.
In theory. But what we know is that, for instance, with C-Scope, just because they said that a TEK was covered, we pulled up a live lesson at the Argyle community meeting, and the TEK, the standard that they were covering, was the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So everybody's happy. That superintendent can check off, my teachers are teaching the TEKs. But when you actually look at the lessons and you look at how the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were taught, the actual lesson went all into the Arab Spring in Libya, gave the teacher a Time magazine article to give the students that describes the Arab Spring as a democratic process. And then the assessment happens. Exactly. So do you think in that class that teacher is actually teaching our history, our foundation, the Declaration of Independence, and the
No,
Constitution.
they're not. But this is the point. They will always say that it's the teacher's fault because that's why they don't like to have things very specifically in the curriculum, in the framework. Because if you have everything there and it's very clear, if you look at the Texas standards, it's very clear. You have to teach this, and that. And actually, yesterday, Ken Mercer, that got amazing, placards where actually he was detailing bit by bit what is in the APUSH and what is not. And they were saying, oh yeah, but we're going to cover them. Don't worry, we're going to cover them. And they were leaving out the most important part. How you're going to cover them. Mm-hmm. The Texas program is actually very specific. You have to do them all bit by bit, one by one. So it's pretty much like it's in the traditional way. You go there chronologically and you go there and one by one, and it's very detailed. If you leave stuff out, it will not be out, but it will be done with other means. It will be done while they're preparing the teachers, while they're teaching teachers how to teach. And this stuff will not be public. And this is the part that they like a lot. Because then they can go there and they can say, when you're talking about the American Independence War and the Declaration of Independence, go there. Go to Tahrir Square, go to Libya, go to this one, to make the equivalence so that actually the young kids, they will have this equivalence and say, oh, the American Revolution is nothing special because they've done something similar right now. And you get to the result, but it's not written everywhere. So it's not in the framework, but you get to the result by teaching the teachers, which is very devious and works very well.
It works very well. And then you have other people being bought off to drive the narrative that they want. So this amendment passed.
Bought off is a really harsh definition. They are providing them funds in order for them to just do better their job in inspiring children and inspiring. This is just this is the way of doing stuff. It's very good. I was born and raised in a country, actually in a region. I was born in Tuscany. Tuscany is, as we like to call it, is the Soviet Socialist Republic of Tuscany. Communists have been in power for more than 50 years. One day they were all fascist. The next day they were all communist. So it's just the same. It's exactly the same. And I was raised in a thing when if you went to school, there were these clubs, after-school activities, and they were pretty much all organized by communist people. So I got to know how they think and how they did. This is where I say there is hope. Because they tried everything to indoctrinate me and many other kids, and we came out conservative. So they are not very good at this. But this is the point, is the kind of talk that they do. They teach you that. When you're young, they teach you, don't say this, say that. And you have an ellipsis and you get in there. So, and when I read some documents, I read the stuff and I say, oh, that's it. They taught me to do that. That's fun. So you have to tell, you would never say bought off. Bought off is actually something. They are helping them to develop ways to communicate better to the conservatives. Actually, how good is this new reform?
Okay, so let's talk about how they're informing the conservative Republicans.
Yeah.
We know that the Democrats are not going to support a resolution that is being presented tomorrow during the meeting. Ken Mercer, who's an elected state board of education and a hero, in my opinion, is putting forth a resolution that will completely reject the new, not the old. It's okay to have the old, but not the new AP U.S. History Framework and Exam. And so there's someone that is financially benefiting from helping them drive the narrative. Is that nice, sir?
Yeah, it kind of works, yeah. At least you won't get sued. Because if you say that they are both off, people they would say,
Well, we'll edit that part out that I said that. So there's a woman, her name is Mary Keller, and she came out with an article holding back on AP U.S. history would hurt kids of Texas military veterans. And basically her narrative is that, the U.S. AP history is one of the most frequently and successful taken AP courses in Texas and in the nation. The recent discussions and proposals threatening to postpone or eliminate it have been troubling. Texas has more military-connected students in our classroom than in any other state. These students deserve to not be forgotten in the fog of political rhetoric, but to be considered in thoughtful deliberations of the value of the advanced placement course options. So, here's the deal. I'm all for a student taking an AP class and getting a college credit. That is fine. The former, the 2010 AP framework was only 5 pages. It actually mentions American exceptionalism. So I say go back. I'm not saying get rid of everything. Go back to what you had. But it's interesting because Mary Keller has a organization. She's the CEO of the Military Child Education Coalition. And one of their major donors just happens to be the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Oops.
And they're partnered with Achieve.
Oh, another name. Another interesting name. Very interesting name. You get to hear them a lot, actually. They're all over the place. One bit here, one bit there. Yeah. It's weird.
So that narrative that Mary Keller is helping to put forward and get conservatives on the side, because what we know is Thomas Ratliff, as
oh, come on. That was a cheap shot, That was a cheap shot.
And actually, I ran into Thomas yesterday, and because I was testifying for the amendment yesterday. So I was for any AP or IB class has to align with the Texas TEKS. So we passed that. They passed that. And Thomas Ratliff said, "Hey, we're on the same page," and he high-fived me.
He just wanted to rub it in, right?
Yeah,
so
rub it in.
He cannot accept it. He had to do that, right?
That's right.
What a nice fella.
But you got to look at the strategies and the tactics. And so another person who's financially benefiting from the narrative is Thomas Ratliff, because he's actually been a paid lobbyist for Microsoft for over 13 years.
The coincidence.
That, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the narrative is he's trying to tell Republicans, we don't need this resolution. We don't need to reject this APUSH because now it has to align because we passed the amendment. But what we know is just because they say that it aligns, it's in how it's taught. And so that brings us to our good friend, Roy White. Are you still there, Roy? We've been going 90 to nothing.
I'm still here.
Okay, great. So I sent you that article by Mary Keller, and you wrote a letter that we put out yesterday. And do you mind if I just read this letter, and then we'll talk about it? Or do you have it in front of you? Maybe you can read it.
Yes, I do. Give me just a moment. My computer. Sure. Hang on just a moment.
Because then it'll be like an audio book.
No, nice.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Be happy. Coming up right now. Sure. Here it is. If you're ready.
Yes.
Dr. Mary Keller, President and CEO of the Military Child Education Coalition, MCC, quoted in a recent editorial request from a soldier she met at Charleston Air Force Base, South Carolina, where he said to her, quote, "Do just one thing, take care of our kids." I respect the work that Dr. Keller has done on behalf of military children for many years. As a former president of a military charity that supported the children of military fallen heroes, Snowball Express, I too have spoken to hundreds of surviving spouses and their children and believe, as Dr. Keller does, that taking care of these children is a national duty. However, I respectfully disagree with Dr. Keller that supporting the new AP U.S. History fulfills this obligation. Quite the contrary, I think it harms these children. I am a former teacher in the Department of Defense school system, DODGE is oftentimes referred. 20 years of active duty service, moving 3 children to numerous public schools, and currently lead a group of citizens who are nearing the completion of reviewing over 25 social studies textbooks at the middle and high school level. The level of misinformation, omissions, factual errors, and agenda building found in the proposed textbooks match the agenda of David Coleman and the College Board AP U.S. History. Dr. Keller's endorsement basically dooms the children of our warriors to a distortion of the true history of our country, and one that most of these warriors wouldn't recognize. Taking Dr. Keller's recommendation would be the antithesis of what the airmen requested of her and all of us. Would not failing to educate and testing our children of the inspiring actions of words of former military leaders and our founding fathers that have been a staple for years in AP and regular textbooks be a detriment and disrespectful of their parents' service? If we take Dr. Keller's advice, that is precisely the outcome. Yet in both the AP testing and newly proposed textbooks, their roles of patriotism, courage, and integrity are left out and replaced with progressive players that fulfill the special interest constituency that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a major funder of the MCEC, supports. How is this taking care of our kids, Dr. Keller? It is more important to provide is it more important to provide incomplete and distorted information so these children can have consistent testing standards, even with information that will make them less knowledgeable and deny them the same cultural heritage their parents received about our history? That seems foolish and short-sighted, Dr. Keller. Why not join Texas SBOE Ken Mercer's effort to take a stand against the AP testing standards and return the standards that match the Texas Essential Knowledge Skills, which are considered by Dr. Sandra Stotsky, an expert in this field, as the second best standards in the country behind Massachusetts. Much has been written about the many deficiencies of our new AP standards. How about those who don't take AP history? What will they find in future U.S. history textbooks? Well, if no changes are made to the proposed textbooks, they will find these examples of misinformation just in one textbook, McGraw-Hill U.S. History since 1877. 1. Leaves the impression the Supreme Court determined the winner for the 2000 presidential election, when in fact vote totals showed President Bush won. 2. According to McGraw-Hill, the children of Cuba received many benefits from the communist form of government, when in fact Cuba is rated as one of the least free countries in the world. Never identifies the terrorists that hijacked airplanes as Islamic or jihadists, nor any explanation of the motivation for the terrorists. No discussion of the political aims of Al-Qaeda. Only discussions about the generosity of Americans after 9/11. Islamic terrorist groups arose from the poor, when in fact the leaders of the groups all came from the privileged class. Lastly, and this is difficult to say to someone I respect as a military nonprofit leader, no such leader should ever use the children they represent and the memories of their parents in any manner that could be construed as political. Their loss is one that should never be used to drive emotions on any politically charged topic. I hope Dr. Keller will consider the next time she wishes to use the children of military members as a pawn in a political charged fight to reconsider. It is unseemly and disrespectful for anyone who has the privilege of representing these children in the public arena to use one's position in taking sides. What is even sadder is she is taking the wrong side and doing exactly the opposite she pledged to do for the warriors in Charleston. Making sure the material the AP history test covers is aligned with the values these men and women have fought and died for is the best way to, quote, take care of our kids. I support Ken Mercer and others who wish to return the AP U.S. history testing to its respective position, and not the one that is supported by Dr. Keller, the Gates, and many others who will do far more harm to our children than we can imagine. I hope you will too. Sincerely, Lieutenant Colonel Roy White, United States Air Force, Truth in Texas Textbooks, Bernie, Texas.
You know, Roy, it's, you know, we joke around sometimes about the insanity of these people, but it is serious. It is our kids. It is the next generation of American children. It's that next generation of military children who...
Insane? I wouldn't call them insane. They know exactly what they're doing. This is the point. It's very difficult to believe that actually clear-thinking people would want that for the future of this nation. But they're not insane. Insane people don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing.
Wow.
and they want to profit from it. So when they go out and say that they care about military kids, kids of military families, actually, they couldn't care less. So this is the point. They're not insane. Clinically insane people, they're not responsible for what they're doing. But if they destroy a generation of young Americans, they will be taken responsible for what they're doing. So that's also the point. They're not insane. They're dangerous.
Do you agree with that, Roy?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the reasons why, as I said, I haven't been the president and CEO of the charity for 3 years. It was difficult to leave that, and yet I realized that if I wanted to speak out on the issues that were going to be very important, I had met, as I said, many of these families, and I could continue to do what I was doing, but that was not what was going to really impact these children at least in my opinion, in the long term. If we continue to service these children and give them a good give them what they need in terms of emotional support, spiritual support, all the other kinds of things, and additional education. If we don't focus on the other enemies, all enemies, foreign and domestic, that's an oath I took and I take very seriously. And it says foreign and domestic in the oath to be a military officer. So we have domestic enemies here in the United States that are a far greater threat to our children than anyone coming across the border. And a lot of that is Lucas and others who have been overseas. And I just came from 2 weeks of being in Europe. And I sat down and had a long conversation with some gentlemen from the Czech Republic. And you think in terms of the freedoms and how their lives have lived, or what they've lived through in the last 25 years, and watching the wall go down, and before that, and those children were taught one thing and one thing only. And we have people, sadly to say, in this country that are wanting to do the same thing. And we don't know what it's like to live without freedom, but there are people who want to tell us how to live, what to do, what to teach our children in a manner that is the antithesis of what I fought for 20 years, and what so many millions of men and women who have died for, and to use them to say that this AP test. So in essence, it's better to teach them a bunch of BS and make sure it's standard across the board than to teach them the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're wanting these Republicans or anyone to buy into, and it's an emotional argument, and that's why I schooled Dr. Keller, and I've worked with her before at a charity, and I know she does good work. But when I found out she was receiving money from the Gates Foundation, then it all kind of makes sense. You dance to who brought you. And in this case, I don't know whether she received a call from those folks, but it's even if she wasn't receiving money from them, she shouldn't come out and use her title, who still actively involved in that, and trying to use emotion, particularly in an argument that's the exact opposite of what we're doing to our children. And I resented it, and I appreciate you sending me the letter, and it was a privilege to be able to write it, and I don't know if it convinced anyone, but I certainly believe that it needs to be stopped, and but we'll continue to fight the fight, and you guys are doing a great job with it, Allison. I appreciate being a small part of it.
Well, thank you. Just to let you know, there's an article that was just put out a few minutes ago on Breitbart, Texas. Our friend Meryl Hope wrote it. The title, and I encourage people to go out and find this article and and we have Roy's letter up on Women on the Wall, and read these, and then call your State Board of Education elected official and say, as my represented official, I am calling on you to vote to reject APUSH and vote for this resolution. And in this article that Meryl wrote, It's actually quite interesting. In 2008, Gates' grant wasn't the only time Keller took the foundation's money to push Common Core into military communities. In 2011, the Military Children Education Coalition was granted $149,965 to develop and execute an advocacy campaign in support of the implementation of Common Core state standards in multiple states by leveraging the voices and actions of its network of military families and uniformed leadership. In 2013, the Military Children Education Coalition was granted $563,611 by the Gates Foundation to support implementation of the Common Core state standards by engaging military leaders and families. Also last year, Military Children Education Coalition officially tied the knot with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, teaming up on projects to ensure that America's service members and post 9/11 veterans are college and career ready, according to PRN Newswire.
College and career ready. You hear it again and again and again and again. It's always the nice words. So that Kool-Aid they drank was actually, attached to a big bag of money. Isn't that weird?
Isn't that buying someone off?
No, not really. You cannot say that. They cannot say that because
they were financially influenced by grants, and actually not just financially influenced. The money had a purpose. The purpose was to develop and educate an advocacy campaign in support of the implementation of Common Core state standards.
Yeah.
Roy, what is that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I was just reading the article, too. I'd read the earlier one where they passed the bill. And again, I think, and again, Meryl Hope's done some great detailed reporting here, as she does on the education in Texas. It's certainly nefarious at best that she would just coincidentally come out and speak so strongly about these causes when in fact she's receiving money from them. And in the nonprofit world, and I found it to be a problem when I was, is that sometimes sponsors want you to do things and support things that are clearly a minefield. Not to use a military term loosely, but they clearly mark areas that you need to stay away from. And in this case, she obviously had no problem whatsoever coming out and using the emotional argument. And there are 5 million children over the next 8 years who are going to be exposed to this AP test. And sure, there's a lot of those that are military, but the average Texas student who's out there who's not would have the same potential problem. Well, it's either a problem or it's not. Well, the bigger problem is they're not providing the facts. They're not providing the history that the Texas Code requires. And in fact, if the state of Texas goes through with this, there are some who can make the case that the violation of educational code puts the state of Texas in a legal trap. They could end up being sued by failing to meet legal requirements of actually the state's required to teach certain aspects of our American culture that they have to be biased in favor of those things. American exceptionalism being one of those and others. And there are people who come up and stand, and they should, at the board meeting, State Board of Education should say, our hands are tied. We have to teach this. This is in the Texas Educational Code. You may not like it. We'll get someone to take it out, but it's in there.
Well,
and in reality, if they continue down this path, they may find themselves an eager young lawyer or older lawyer who wants to take this on to say, you're in violation of Texas Educational Code. And Neil Fries, who's been in this business a long time, and I have chatted about this, and there's a lot of information. We're going to be putting out some of that information later as we go forward, because our final report will come out in October after the State Board of Education puts out its final recommendations, and the publishers will tell us what they plan on taking out and putting in. And that'll be as good an indication as anything, because we've submitted some fairly significant errors already preliminarily to the State Board of Education about errors in the textbooks. If they don't correct those errors, if the publishers aren't doing that, the College Board's going to have no motivation to do it either.
And I have to tell you, we have a special guest calling in on the line, and we have State Board of Education, Ken Mercer, on the line. And Ken, that was Wright, who was just speaking with Truth in Texas Textbooks. And Roy came out with a letter, I sent it to you, on refuting the argument that Mary Keller had in the Dallas Morning News. So I just wanted you to know that that's who that was speaking. And Ken, welcome to the Women on the Wall show.
Thank you, Alice and Roy. And Roy, you're a real champion. When I heard about the other side trying to say how wonderful it was for military kids, I guess if you've never read the document, it's wonderful, right? But if you've read it, and you know that throughout the entire document, there's not one military commander, not one military battle, not one Medal of Honor recipient. I'm talking from the founding of Jamestown to current day. The document is totally anti-military.
Well, and that's what's so, amazing to me, that without reading any of that, or maybe she did read it and didn't think it was important that the military children should understand what their mothers and fathers aspired to be. And one of the reasons why many of us chose to go into the military is because we heard those stories. We heard those inspiring commentaries and reading in our textbooks. And if they're not there, it's not going to show that service above self means something. It's not going to show that what courage and real fire means, and what men like Jimmy Doolittle or Dwight Eisenhower or so many others that have gone out to give everything of their all. The Medal of Honor winners, and no one's even going to know that. At least, and these are supposedly the AP history standards. So Ken, thank you for all your work and pushing this so hard. We'll be there tomorrow, so I'll have a chance to meet you in person. We've talked a lot, but never in person, so I look forward to that.
Well, thank you, because I want everybody to listen and know this is much more than just public school. This is the AP exam. It's going to go to, it's public, it's private, it's homeschool, it's my kids at my DOD schools, Department of Defense schools. They're taking the same curriculum that Roy's talking about. I mean, Department of Defense schools kids would be taking the same thing, which is anti-American, anti-military. What is going on?
Well, and I think that what we've seen is the strategies and the tactics of the implementation of Common Core, of the implementation of C-Scope. Ken, we have Luca in studio with us here today, and we were talking earlier. These people know exactly what they're doing. And they so many times are good, Republicans or people who have the right intentions are given a narrative that's false and dangerous, and so many times they don't do their due diligence to follow it like you did. I mean, I think when you discovered what Jane Robbins was talking about at that conference, you took action. What do you think our listeners need to do between now and tomorrow to convince some of the folks on the State Board of Education of how important this is?
Yeah, it's pretty scary, because right now we're actually on the fence. I can tell you that I need at least one more vote to ensure passage. That's how, and we're talking about a board that's 10 Republicans and 5 Democrats. So it's not a partisan issue. It should be nonpartisan, because this is about America. But right now, that's where I'm at. So yeah, if you have and especially in the military towns, if you're in Texas and in Fort Bliss, El Paso, Fort Hood, Waco, Colina area, or San Antonio, Fort Sam Houston, Randolph Air Force Base, this is so Lackland Air Force. This is so the base Del Rio. This is so important that this be done right. And we're not even asking that it be we're asking for balance to tell both sides of every story. But what's happening now to tell only one side, the negative. So call or email the state board. Tell your representatives if you know who they are. And I'm going to be honest, especially Republicans. This is important to make a statement. This is not about politics. This is not a time to go on horse trade. This is the time to do what's right. This is time to have that fire in the belly and do what is right.
Well, I'm with you, and Ken, I just thank you for speaking out and stepping out. I know it's not easy; it's a lot of work, but know that as a mom in Texas, I am forever grateful to you because my children matter. So
God bless you. And you and Roy and Luca and everyone else. This is just so important because, as I tell my parents, Alice, when you come to Austin, you will find not an army, but armies, plural, of full-time paid professional lobbyists. Right. So that's why the parents need to get involved and say, hey, we're not getting paid for this. We're here on our own nickel. We're here, we're paying our own meals, our own travel, our own hotel, whatever, when we come down and talk and speak or the email. Let them know, the parents, you're the ones who go to the vote. You're the ones who cast the vote, and let them know how important this is, please.
Well, we will do it. We will do our part. Thank you, Ken. Roy, thank you so much for all that you are doing with Truth in Texas textbooks. We look forward to your report coming out, and that we can use as a tool in our local school districts to really protect our children. And I just thank you. I thank you for writing this letter and refuting Mary Keller and speaking truth to power.
Well, my pleasure and an honor. And again, thank you for all your efforts. So we'll press on for tomorrow. Good luck to
God bless you all. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you so much. Luca, coming from Europe, and with what you've seen in Florida, Alabama, now this battle in Texas, we're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Right in the front line. Yeah, right in the trenches. That's where I like to stand. I'm a masochist apparently, because I really like to be in the trenches.
Right.
So,
you don't get a lot of sleep, do you?
No, actually, yesterday I did because I pretty much collapsed on the bed. I was there trying to write something on the computer and then we woke up this morning, 9 o'clock. Yeah. Because you go ahead, you do that 3 hours, and then after a while it just collapses.
Yes, you have to collapse.
You know?
Do you have hope
I
for
think
America?
So. Absolutely.
With what
I don't have a lot of hope for Europe. And some people, because actually I was interviewed a couple of days ago by the leading conservative newspaper in Italy, actually a good friend of mine, made a very long interview and stuff, and it became pretty successful. It was a big splash and stuff, and I was thinking, oh my God, now the anti-American kids, they're going to come out. And the first day they didn't, and so I say, oh, well, phew. I got away with it. It was great. Second day, they started to come. America's bad. Yeah, why don't you all die? Blah, blah, blah stuff. And then when they were coming out and picking points and say, the Pledge of Allegiance, he was done by that, and he was a socialist, and so on and so on. They were coming out with these factoids and stuff, and I said, yeah, but you still are not tackling the issue. The issue is that America is different. America is exceptional. And I think that I've been around. I've been with a lot of people. Say 100 here, 150 there. We've done a lot of dates, 12 dates there. So I've met a good number of people, and I could see that this was a people that is suffering. These are military families. These are veterans. These are people who actually care a lot about America, and they care a lot about their children, and they've seen that this country is slipping away. But they realize that. And they are there because most of the stuff that we did, it was on a weekday, and it was in the evening, and it was at lunch, and it was very inconvenient, and they would come there at strange hours. I can imagine the best part was Huntsville. There were a lot of people there. At 5 o'clock, Alabama was playing, and we started at 4 something. So the people who were there, they were not seeing the football game. So I'm thinking, oh my God, that's huge, especially in Alabama.
Right.
I'm not thinking that all the people that were there, they were Auburn fans. So I'm thinking there were some Alabama fans as well. So this is the point. There are people who actually care. And those things that say, right now, they're Democrats or Republicans, they're trying to get people of good standing, people that are really respected by the conservative field. Right now, I think the only advice I could give to all is the same I'm giving to the friends back home. Don't trust their credentials. Don't trust their reputation. Because right now, they know how to get to you. Because if you have a member, there's someone like Bill Bennett, has done a lot of good things in the past. I'm sure that this lady, I forgot her name, is
Mary Keller.
Mary Keller. I'm sure she had done a lot of good stuff in the past. So they're using her reputation, and they're paying for it, handsomely, in order to just go there and convince you, because you think, oh, these are really nice. Guys, check the details. Now that's the time. Not to trust anyone. Not me, not us. I've seen a couple of people, they've checked my LinkedIn profile, and a couple of them, they were coming from colleges in Texas, because they don't know that tomorrow I'll be testifying if we still go ahead. So
Right.
maybe they were doing their homework. They were saying, if I was this and that. And they were coming from conservative colleges. So I'm
Interesting.
not just thinking that, trust no one.
Right.
It happened before. It happened in Europe. Go there, check, see that Europe is coming back. Because we've seen it's a failure. We're coming back. Not
Right.
all of Europe. The part that is still healthy enough to realize their mistake is coming back. Southern Europe is not, and we're going down the hill really fast. And so think again, check the details. Be suspicious of everyone, because right now they're doing that. But I think there is hope. There has to be hope, because the battle isn't over until it's over, and we're here, we're fighting, and
Yeah.
I think all of you listening right now, you are fighting.
Right.
So if we don't give up, if we give up, it's over. If we
Right.
give up, they do that, they win the game, set, match, they've won. If we are not doing that, we are fighting. So America is exceptional, because I think that a movement like this can only happen here. Don't think that it can't happen anywhere else. Anywhere else, when they changed the law in Italy and they changed our history test and they changed our educational system, they had to do nothing. They had the government, they just went there and they say, okay, we make this reform. Gone.
Wow.
They destroyed our future without even thinking about it. And they did not have to bribe them because, it was easy. America is different. It is going to take them a long time because you're fighting back. So,
Well, and you're here on your vacation.
yeah. I didn't tell that. I didn't tell that. I use that every time in the speech, but this time I forgot.
Yeah.
It's my vacation. Then people say I'm a masochist. They say, well, you're a workaholic and stuff. You say, you have 2 weeks of vacation. What do? You go on a beach and have fun and drink and stuff. I say, no, I'm going across America to talk about something I should know nothing about. Because common court, they say, oh, it's American. No, guys, it's not American. It's the product of the same culture that has failed time and time again in Europe. So wake up. It's not new. Look there. The name is new, but the names are pointless. So I'm coming here, and people say, oh, you must be crazy. I say, no, don't feel sorry for me. I'm having the time of my life. I love this kind of stuff.
Well, we love having you here, and we're excited to be hosting you here in Dallas, and we're headed tomorrow to Austin. Both Luca and I will be testifying to stand with Mercer.
Absolutely.
Stand with Ken Mercer and stand for this resolution. So with that, we will close out the show, and we will be back next week, and hopefully Rebecca will be back. We're praying for Rebecca and her family as they're struggling with some health issues, and so she's taking care of family.
If you can pray for her, actually, that
Yes.
would be really, really appreciated, because
Yes.
she's
Prayers
going
are
through some
needed.
difficult time.
Yes. So have a great day, and we'll be back next week. Bye-bye. Thank you, Josh.